defeat, humiliation, and humble. 3 things Ray never had to experience. I just recently watched episode 9, and I gotta tell you, I made it a goal to really not judge a book by their covers, even though it's kind of what I've always been known for doing. I knew exactly what I was getting going into this, and I finally decided to buckle down, really bite the bullet, and watch this turd. And my God, was it ever. I've alluded to this several times in several different episodes that I would never watch episode 9 because I knew exactly what would happen. And short of Ryan actually spoiling it for me, it was a consensual spoiler. Don't worry. I wanted to know what happened so I could spare the time and effort, but it looks like that kind of went to waste. I have never seen a bigger train wreck of a movie than I have the other night. Welcome back to Mars on Life, and Tatooine is not a place I would ever want to visit because of the tainted legacy it now has. I'm Sebastian Shug, and with me as always, that's your cue.
Sebastian, just got back from talking about my friend Joe. I feel bad for you, man.
Are we
I
still
feel bad.
on this? Look, I
and I'm Ryan Mancini.
I thought I could give myself kind of the benefit of the doubt and excuse myself for last week because I'm recording in what's basically a faux one-room apartment with little to no AC because the AC is right next to my microphone. And yeah, the heat does things to a person that make you mad. I was re-listening to what I was actually saying, and I'm like, dang, I'm sounding really bitter.
I mean, you did see Rise of Skywalker.
No, but see, that was after. That was after the episode.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I'm going into this kind of with a fresh take of now listening to what I was saying, and I completely stand by those statements. Don't get me wrong. I feel like I should expand briefly sort of the ending point that I was talking about before we had that interruption, that technical interruption. First and foremost, how about that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Haha, like every single fucking media outlet isn't talking about it.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I alluded to the bitterness being of self-righteous artists feeling that they can craft their way out of this pandemic, and it's not so much the effort that I despise, but their overzealous attitudes in doing so. We really didn't expand upon that enough, and this is kind of a potpourri episode anyway.
Yeah.
But
this is kind of our pre-Guestapalooza that the next couple of months will be like.
Needless to say, it's gotten worse. With TikTok on the decline and Instagram Reels essentially taking over, people have decided to inundate my feed with a bunch of crafty shit that I don't care about, and neither should you, because it's pretty pedantic. I can't even say that it's bad art, because it's not. It's just shitty artistry and the attitudes associated with it. So, I know you don't peruse social media for this specific thing.
Well, actually, I was going to say that I when it comes down to my social media use, especially these days, when I'm not promoting any campaigning stuff, or if I'm not informing people about protests or the U.S. Postal Service or whatever new dumb thing that our stupid, dumb fucking president says.
Orange man bad.
It's there's a dang Cheeto in the Oval Office.
Mancini, we've made our millionth joke about Trump. Why isn't he out of office yet? Like, is what we're doing not working? I don't understand.
I don't know. It's weird. It's like all those times that I've waved my hands doing the OK sign because I'm trying to copy Trump. He just doesn't go away.
You're saying that if I'm depressed, I can just start a business and I'll be fine?
Yeah.
Turning Point says so. I mean, what? Fuck. It's actually really funny. God, what was it? Episode 3 or 4? No, episode 3 was our Star Wars episode.
Yeah.
Episode 4, I was sort of questioning the rise of like sort of a countercultural conservative artistry, um,
Hmm.
basically about PragerU's Leaving California mini documentary. And it got released a while back, but I actually saw it. Um,
Okay.
is it the most pandering thing I've ever seen? No, but it's certainly up there. And it's about what I expected. Similar to Rise of Skywalker, I went in knowing exactly what I was going to get, and I left feeling no emptier nor fuller. I didn't get anything out of it. Okay, I
Right.
knew the bias behind it.
Recently, I found this great YouTuber who, thankfully, and I say this as, and I don't know if it's definitely not the partisan side of me saying this, so it has to be the journalist side of me saying this, but he's very honest yet very neutral in covering presidential and election history. The guy's name is Mr. Beat. Great channel, great coverage, great history. But he had an episode that talked a little bit about, the differences between nationalism and patriotism, and he featured a part of PragerU's whole bit where they basically said that Hitler was not a nationalist. It was great because I'm watching a man who's probably a libertarian short circuit because a conservative think tank that claims to be educating people said unabashedly that Hitler was not a nationalist, even though that is like a complete affront to everything you learn about in political science. But then again, people seem to just not give a damn about political science. Case in point, all the reporters the other night that bungled why AOC said that she was seconding the nomination of Bernie Sanders. This is why you learn politics, so you don't end up looking like an ass when you come out with a video that says Hitler wasn't a nationalist, but he was a socialist. And it's like, no, he was a national socialist. That's still different than a socialist, you
I
know.
just I just don't follow politics because I don't follow politics as much. Case in point, pride example, someone who doesn't follow political science is the same guy talking who fucking dropped it as a major because I was sick and
Yeah.
tired of all the shit on campus.
Well, and to tell you the
And
truth, it was very to kind of go on that other point you were making. That was something I really missed out of, especially the first two movies, but especially Episode 9. What the hell is the politics in this galaxy
how about
that's far, far
how,
away?
how about you just look at it as a movie and it still
Well,
falls flat.
that's the problem.
There are no politics of episode 9. It
No,
is a
there isn't.
very cut and dry, let's go here, let's go here, let's go here. And the person I saw it with, a good friend of mine,
Hmm.
we were just cracking jokes the whole time.
Yeah,
That was the
it's
highlight of
not
the
something to
movie.
take seriously. It isn't.
Oh,
Like everyone, like I took it seriously the only time I saw it, but that was because I didn't know how bad it was. I my friends of the show from Touchdowns and Tangents, Pete Camarillo and Kenny Berry, they were both telling me that the movie was bad before I saw it, and I basically made it clear to them, guys, look, all art is subjective. The Last Jedi was
yeah,
the
doesn't
most
mean it can't,
divisive movie in the history of Hollywood.
doesn't
More
mean it
divisive than Birth of a Nation, directed by D.W. Griffith in
doesn't mean it
1910.
can't be subjectively awful.
Right.
Okay.
But also, these
You
are two
know,
guys who aren't Star Wars fans like me saying this. So I'm thinking, well, as a Star Wars fan, I'm probably going to look at it differently than the average film goer, average film goer.
but that's the thing, borrowing a quote from you. That's just it. You still looked at it as a piece of shit because it was. And the thing
Right.
is about this movie, it's genius how it breaks it down into the most basic atomic structures, literally, where you could be the most either avant-garde filmmaker, fan of Star Wars, or even political journalist going in to see this movie, dedicated fan and casual bystander, and you'd still come out virtually with the same reaction of it's not a good film because XYZ. or it's not a good film because ABC. The point is, it's not a good film up until the ending.
Oh, no. It's a film that has the trappings and the appearances and the characters of a Star Wars movie. Thusly, the film is an attempt at a Star Wars movie. It is not a Star Wars movie. And that was something that became very clear to me in the days and weeks and, now months, especially after Colin Trevorrow's original script came out. And, that's the thing. You need to have that magic of a story with these beloved characters. You can't just have a half-assed story that features Chewbacca. Granted, Solo was like that, and Chewbacca was the best part of the whole damn movie.
The one scene that actually did get a reaction out of me, it wasn't even a scene in the movie. It was a doctored photo, it was a meme, where when C-3PO is about to get his mind wiped, it's like, oh, I'm just staring back at my friends one last time.
Yeah.
By the way, complete MacGuffin in the fucking movie. If you've seen
it was useless.
Yeah, it was useless. But the meme, after he says that, it actually shows a black and white image of the original cast from episode 4. And I'm like, aw.
To your point, the thing that got me was Harrison Ford coming back. Like, I did not expect that at all. So when I was in the theater, I had a similar moment to when Yoda appears in Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
But this was very different because it's not so much story impact. It's the fact that, holy shit, you got Harrison Ford back for another Star Wars movie?
I think what really drove the point of lunacy home is the fact that they didn't even bother to come up with original dialogue for their interaction. It's the same dialogue from episode 7. And I'm watching this, thinking about
poetry thing.
And I'm like, oh, that's the poetry? Okay, then why does it sound as contrived as it did 2 movies ago? Okay, like, I'm supposed to feel more emotion now that he's gone through this change 1.5 movies later, and it's like I knew he was going to turn good before he died, i.e. the antithesis of essentially Darth Vader. Okay,
well, no, that is Darth Vader.
No.
Darth Vader was redeemed too.
I'm talking. Yeah, well, that was seconds before he died. Like, you're telling me that Kylo wasn't going to realize this sooner? Like, of course he was. They didn't, because they can't repeat the same 3 movies, and that's what really got to me. It's like, you're not supposed. It's not that they're not supposed. Yeah, and failed.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, and the scenes that were intended to be shot as dramatic fell flat.
Yeah.
I'm gonna state this and put it on my grave. The fight choreography hasn't been good since episode 1 with the fight with Darth Maul. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? Even excluding the fight in Revenge of the Sith?
Dude, you cannot.
I mean, that is like dancing.
You cannot. Oh yeah, okay. the composition is there.
Yeah.
But you cannot have such vigorously close-up shots and then have it be the standard for every single lightsaber battle immediately after. Okay?
Right.
Like, fucking show some choreography for once. Have you seen the edit on YouTube when Rey has the 2 lightsabers and she's reflecting Palpatine's lightning back? There's an edit on YouTube that shows... Well, first of all, it has Duel of the Fates playing.
Right.
But it also has every single ghost. So there's like Ben Kenobi, Hayden Christensen, Yoda, Luke,
Qui-Gon,
like Qui-Gon, all of the past Jedi edited in, but it's not just edited in for visual effects. It actually makes sense with their movements. I think the fandom did a better job picking apart this movie and piecing it back together than Abrams did.
But it was also like, really, Rey is a Palpatine, and you're gonna fake out Chewie dying, and
Oh my God!
Mark Hamill's hair. I mean, there was just so much going on.
I could go into. I don't want to do a full dissection of this. We've already done 2 episodes doing such, and
Yeah.
every
And
time.
I've only seen it once, and I honestly, I am unlike
Every-
the prequels, which I unfortunately saw them way too many times as a kid to forget
Mm.
them. I will not be rewatching Rise of Skywalker anytime soon, unless you and I decide to do like
No.
Mystery Science Theater takedown of it one day.
I'm gonna speak this into the future. I'm gonna be every guru out there known to man. I'm gonna wish it. I'm gonna want it. I'm gonna do it. In this case, I'm not gonna do either of them, and I'm gonna give it a hard no because every time we bring up Star Wars in such an analytical sense, I lose a piece of my soul. I really do. Because film can be analyzed, art is subjective, and all the other statements that you'd use to BS a class, I get it. I'm fucking tired of it. And
same.
what a sour note to end on, indeed.
Hey, you know what? Like I told my mom earlier today, Palpatine died, and the teddy bears danced, and that is how the Star Wars concluded. Like. That's how the cookie crumbled.
Yeah,
that's how the Death Star obliterated.
People aren't bitching and moaning now that they realize how the series actually ends. When they were throwing a hissy fit at the end of episode 6, the biggest slap in the face too. For a man to say all his life that he hates sand, only to have his fucking lightsaber buried within the confines of it.
I saw that meme too.
Oh my God.
I was.
No, you want to talk about poetic? That is poetic. It's poetic irony.
So this will be my final note on it, because the way I see it, there's no other better way to end anything about the Star Wars sequel trilogy. So there was a meme that I found on Instagram probably in January. I gotta tell you, it's probably the funniest Star Wars meme I've ever seen in my life. And it's of the very last shot of the entire saga, and it's when Rey is with the old lady outside the Lars homestead on Tatooine, and which technically is not where the saga began, but I understand symbolism, A New Hope, yada yada yada. And of course the old lady's got this alien creature with her that looks nothing like all of those weird alien creatures that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were riding in the prequels when they went to Tatooine, but I digress. Where the gal asks Rey, who are you? And she says, I'm Rey. And then the old lady says, Rey who? And Rey looks to the side. And somebody got a picture of Rey Romano smiling and edited to look like a blue Force ghost. And Rey looks to her side, and then she looks back at the old lady and she says, Rey Romano. And I got to tell you, Sebastian, this was... I mean, for a trilogy that had everything to gain and ultimately lost it all, that is the only redemption left. Outside of The Last Jedi, which I will say is the best of the trilogy and stands up as a great Star Wars movie. It's not a good Star Wars movie. It's a great Star Wars movie. I would argue, I would probably make it fourth after the original trilogy, followed by Rogue One. No, the Last Jedi, Episode 8.
Oh God.
That was the one that pretty much broke the Star Wars fandom in the same way that the 2016 election broke the United States of America.
Yeah, and people are still pissing and moaning about it.
I know, but who cares? I mean,
See, with the movie you can turn it off. With politics you can also turn it off, but then you're labeled as a bigot for just simply showing no interest.
Well, let's put it this way. I'll put it in a positive spin. You turn it off, and then all of a sudden your government tells you got to stay home because there's a pandemic that the president couldn't prevent because he was a lazy fuck up. And for all the Republicans that like to say Trump's better, well, at least Obama prevented 2 epidemics. Just saying, 2 epidemics. Have you seen Deadwood by any chance?
I oh god.
The
I
HBO
remember it.
series.
No, I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember Deadwood. I don't think I've ever seen it though, but I've
I'm
heard good
I'm
things.
I'm revisiting it right now. I watched the first two seasons years ago because I had them both on DVD, and I never got to season three because I just never got season three. And I now recently got HBO Max, and I gotta say, you know what? This might be my new favorite streaming platform in a way. Um, Mind you, my entire queue looks like the Criterion Collection, and that's because it's mostly like old foreign films like Yojimbo and Rashomon and The Seventh Seal, as well as the great classic Destroy All Monsters, which is basically just a big Godzilla movie, with all the aliens and monsters by that point. um, but getting to rewatch Deadwood on there, it's been a treat, I gotta say. Um, my God, the idea of having having a mining town that the whole point of the show is to bring order out of entropy. It's fascinating, but my God, is it meticulous? And I gotta say, I really do respect that with Deadwood. Like that's something that Game of Thrones gave up on in the later seasons, clearly, but really hammered home from the get. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you would like it. Um, I know the show's got a record for how many f bombs and all of its swearing. It also helps that it's got a lead character whose name is Swearingen.
Oh god.
But he's played by Ian McShane, who is
Mm-hmm.
perfect for this role. Like Sebastian, you would eat this role up. You'd love it.
Oh, I'm sure. I really am sure. Um, yeah, no, I truthfully I don't know how I feel about streaming platforms as of late because
Hmm.
with myself with the schedule that I have, it's very hard to actually sit down and find a series that I enjoy. And because people genuinely believe, as I alluded to earlier, that they could spend their way out of this pandemic, I'm very much the blade of grass that bends against the wind, where I feel as though if I just continuously work on different things, this will all
Hmm.
pass like a storm that's over the horizon. And not gonna lie, when I watched that '70s show the other day, I actually finished it. It
Hmm.
was a show I wasn't allowed to watch as a kid, and I'm kind of bored with it. Not the show, but just the whole like binge watching. Like I
Yeah.
can't help but getting at least two or three episodes into something
Hmm.
and thinking, "Wow, what is this half hour to an hour I just wasted?" And the only
Right.
exception I'll make for that is Trailer Park Boys, because despite the dumb humor, it's a series I've actually been working on going on 3 years.
Hmm.
And you get into those cycles where you fall out of Netflix or you just lose your password.
Right.
But I found it again and I decided to finish it.
Hmm.
And ever since, it's just like, man, I cannot just sit down and fucking enjoy a series because um I like what I do, if that makes
Right.
sense. It's
It makes sense. Yeah.
fun. So,
Well, let me ask you this: does it make a difference if episodes of a show are a half hour or an hour? Does it make a difference
oh,
for
very
you?
much so. Very much so, because when it
Okay.
comes down to timing, and this is when I back then when I was on the BBC kick, when I was watching
Ooh.
when I was watching Doctor Who, back when Eccleston was still the Doctor. They had two separate Doctor Who series: the '60s version with Hartnell and the 2005 version with Eccleston.
Right.
So you could either
Right.
start off with one or with nine, and everyone was talking about nine, so I'm like, all right.
Hmm.
And I believe those episodes were like 45 minutes to an hour.
Pretty much.
The
Yeah.
thing is, it's
Well, the
not.
whole revived shows like that,
Yeah, it's.
roughly.
I should rephrase that. It's not the episode length that really kind of bugs me. It's the series length.
Mm.
You give me a series of 1 hour episodes that have 7 episodes and like 2 seasons, that's manageable. If it's
Yeah.
a show that's been going on for like the past, God, 20 to 30 years and it has like a cult following, like, I'm sorry, dude, I will never for the life of me watch Friends because I'm not
Mm.
into that quirky dough humor. Okay?
Well,
And it's
remember, Friends is a sitcom, so
no,
it's a little bit
exactly.
of a different situation. Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's a little bit of a different situation for the time, and it's one of those shows that's just sort of fallen by. It sort of had the stamp of I'll have it playing in the background while other things are going on.
Right.
And at that point, it just makes me wonder, okay, so you're not watching the show to watch the show. You're watching the show to not only fill the time slot in your now vacant life, but to I don't know, have a sound that's preferable to just white noise.
Or
It's
Donald
like,
Trump speaking. Yeah.
and it's one of those things where,
Or worse, Hillary Clinton speaking like she did tonight. Oh God.
oh man, and see, this is the kind of shit that I like to encourage in order to avoid political humor because even political humor is tiring.
Oh, it
Like
can be. Yeah.
I cannot, as much as I love a good joke at someone's expense, I'm like, bro, I've been hearing this going on 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
you're
that's
not
part of
gonna
the argument for
humiliate
Joe Biden.
you're not gonna humiliate a man or a woman out of office
Oh
because
God, no.
because I guarantee you they're gonna take to Twitter and their smug little fucking 260 character limit and say, oh, uh, uh fucking the only thing that comes to my mind right now is when AOC was like um something to bash Republicans about, like, oh, like I shouldn't dance in front of my office. Like, do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's because they want to find just about any
Yeah, they want to
humane
find.
anything that a normal human does. They want to say, "Hey, why is that new congresswoman doing that? That's
Yeah,
weird." And it's like
no,
she's dancing because she's kind of an internet sensation
yeah,
and
and
she's
the
got a cool job.
they,
Like,
the replies just got to me where it was like, instead of dancing, how about you fix what's going on in New York? And that's the kind of dry humor I could like, breathe through the nose. But
mm,
dude, I am fucking tired of people standing on their soapbox trying to be the kings of comedy. It's not that I don't have the attention span for it. I just do not genuinely have the interest for it. And I look like such a douche because I can't just sit there and watch a series, but I don't feel bad about it because it's not interesting to me. You
well,
know,
I think it's
I don't
yeah,
understand the topical humor. Like take The Office for example. I don't like The Office.
the
Okay,
American Office, right?
the American Office.
Okay,
The
okay.
B,
Because I've only
the
seen the
British Office is, maybe it's regional. Like I'd have to grow up and live there to kind of understand it. A lot of shows are like that.
honestly, having seen it, I think you'd appreciate it. I think you'd like it because I certainly did. Mind you, that was back when I was a huge Ricky Gervais fan. Because I loved I but when I was in my later high school years, I used to listen to the Ricky Gervais show, all of his episodes of Carl Pilkington. My goodness.
But what I was saying about The Office is that I do not like the cult following that some of these shows have, where you are demonized if you either A, haven't watched it, or B, don't like it. And I will, you know, I'll defend my right to fucking hate this show
Mm.
because I have leverage in this argument when I say that the first season of The Office is garbage. And the instant rebuttal is, well, it's the first season. Of course it's garbage. I'm like, no, that's when you hit the ground running with your best content, and this is the best you
Mhm.
can do. Fuck off.
Right.
Oh well, it's the day-to-day livelihood of, you'd have to work in an office, Ryan. It's like, I guarantee you lives aren't as quirky as this, okay? Where you're fucking
Yeah.
having some Truman Show syndrome, thinking that you're the star of your own reality show. I'm like, no, that's not a show. That's a mental disorder. You should go get yourself checked out.
Well, and then on the flip side, you've got the thick of it, which is basically The Office if they didn't have HR. You know, it's basically, okay, what happens when you throw a bunch of incompetent people in a room together and you basically tell them, okay, you work for this minister in the British Parliament. How are you going to make things better for this minister's constituents? And basically the show proves to you that it's just nothing but a bunch of egos fighting each other until they come out with this half-assed scheme with a catchy tone of phrase. Now, in regards to that show, the first season, I would argue that it falls in the vein of a lot of shows where the first season is considered weak. However, I would vouch for it only because the humor wasn't as frequent. You know, whereas starting with season 2 of The Thick of It, going on for the next, 2 seasons and all of their special episodes, and the spinoff movie, which I highly recommend, In the Loop, great film, James Gandolfini versus Peter Capaldi. Oh my God, it's as a fellow Italian, it's like the fight of the century. But that first season, it's at a slower pace, and so the humor's at a slower pace. Whereas with every season, it's lickety split. It's like rapid fire every scene that people are flipping each other off or calling each other incompetent or screaming or, Peter Capaldi's saying something like, this is longer than a fucking Leonard Cohen song. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's an interaction done well. And
Yeah.
I'm not docking Steve Carell as an actor. He can obviously act well, but you put him in this situation with all these clashing personalities, which on paper should work, and it just doesn't. And subjectively, it doesn't for me. Okay, it does for a lot of people because in college that was basically anyone watched. But they didn't watch it. They watched it as background noise. So my argument comes full circle as to whether or not these people are watching them for the sake of, weathering a pandemic, as we are in one now, or desperately having something to talk about in their next conversation, and this is the best that they have. And it's no, you are not personifying yourself as these characters because A, you're not an actor, and B, your life is not as interestingly mundane as this fucking Hollywood portrayal is. So
and let's think about it this way too. With The Thick of It, and you could argue that The Thick of It has its own kind of sister show, which, by the way, a crossover almost happened. I'm so sad that it never happened. But and this is what happens when you get to be on Doctor Who. But when Armando Iannucci came to the States to develop, create, direct, and write Veep, at one point he thought about incorporating Malcolm Tucker, Peter Capaldi's character, and have him have like a cameo. Do you think maybe it could be a difference in that Veep and The Thick of It both cover politics and the fact that you have a bunch of dullards running the British and American governments versus The Office, where The Office is basically any Joe Blow in their office, and
I don't see how
is it the weight of it?
I don't see how that is just something humorous. Like, I can understand the appeal of having a boss that doesn't give a shit, as Steve Carell obviously portrays. If that's the test, he does it very well as a role. Okay. Yeah. But the antics of it all is just like every episode, like what? The boss is a dumbass. Okay, that's his character. You do the same thing every episode for, God, how many seasons did it run? 4, 5, 12?
The Office? It was 9 seasons.
The ball gets rolling. But I can't step away from the argument of it's not good in the beginning and you just have to accept it like that because it's not supposed to be good in the pilot, but that's the pilot, dude. Answer me this. How many episodes are in the first season?
I'm going to have to look that up because I have no idea. I'm one of those rare Americans who has not seen The Office, but that's because the political side of the thick of it drew me in.
There's 6 episodes in the first season. Okay.
Okay.
Six times shit is even more shit. Okay. Fall to your knees and pray to God that they don't give you 10 of these fucking things, or hold on, or 22, like in season 2.
I gotta tell you, that's a problem for me with shows that decide we're gonna have episodes that are 45 minutes long, but the season's 22 episodes long. That was why I stopped watching The Flash.
That was why I stopped watching Supernatural. Okay, because I used to, when I was on the BBC kick, I think Supernatural's on BBC. It devolved from a show.
Well, it's an American show.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It devolved from a show about, genuinely things being supernatural, to, hey, how many memes on Tumblr can we create about how these boys are either gay, hot and gay, and British. Those are your 4 options. Okay.
They were British and Supernatural.
Oh, then I must be. Oh no, I'm thinking of Super Wholock, which is a combination of Supernatural, Doctor Who, and Sherlock. Well, my high school was awful. I don't know about yours.
Oh no, trust me. When I got into Doctor Who, it was just before season 6. So I caught up on 5 seasons of Doctor Who plus all of the specials. But I guess if I had to throw it back at you because I hear everything you're saying, and I completely agree, because there's a lot of shows where their first season, it's a double-edged sword. I know that one show that gets a lot of attention in regards to having a first season that's very meh, but it went on for like 8 seasons, was Star Trek The Next Generation. And by the way, having seen all of season 1 of The Next Generation, it's a lot to get through, man. I remember thinking to myself, okay, so I got to wait till season 3 until the Borg start assimilating people. In regards to Doctor Who, when you hear people say that about season 1, because let's face it, Christopher Eccleston
Doctor Who
is nothing like David Tennant or Matt Smith or Jodie Whittaker for that matter. No.
Doctor Who
he gets
season
so much
1.
flack, even though he was such a phenomenal doctor.
Doctor Who season 1. The original 60s season 1.
Oh.
That's kind of what I assume when, you say season 1. I'm like,
well, I mean with Eccleston, not with William Hartnell.
Well, the original gets a lot of flack for being the same, for like the same reasons that we've described of like, oh, I don't understand it, therefore it's bad. I'm like, well, have you fucking watched The Twilight Zone, dude? Like, there's a lot of...
Oh, wait, you're still talking about William Hartnell era, right?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the 1960s, the BBC budget only went so far back then, I mean, and obviously, it's grown, especially, you got to remember, too, after the Russell T. Davies era, the production budget for season 5 totally changed and totally increased, which is why Doctor Who became arguably more of a worldwide sensation with the start of season 6 by having it start in the United States. And I would argue that was a fresh direction that I think the show needed, because how do you change and how do you go forward with this new version of the Doctor without it feeling like the same? Point I was getting at with season 1 is with Christopher Eccleston is that because Eccleston was brooding and he was a much darker Doctor, this was a guy who tortured a Dalek, for crying out loud. That people have a lot of flack for that season, and the argument of, oh, well, the first season you kind of have to get through, but then everything else is great after that.
See, I hate that mentality where it's like, oh, so I have to trudge through bullshit when it's actually pretty decent writing.
I mean, it doesn't apply with Christopher Eccleston's season, because that's a great season, even with the farting aliens. Even with the
that's why that
oh my God,
season,
the aliens.
That's why the season, it can stand on its own. I'm surprised I got Tom Baker, honestly. I mean, I know he was still alive, obviously, but
and Tom Baker's like the man. I mean, and the funny thing is, he didn't come back for the Five Doctors special in, I think it was the early 80s. It was the 20th anniversary. And if you look at all the promotional shots, and the funny thing is, even though it's the promotional shots show the quote-unquote Five Doctors, there's really only 3 doctors in the photo. Because you have Troughton, John Pertwee, and I think it was Peter Davison, who was the 5th Doctor. Tom Baker did not return, so in these photos they're using a Madame Tussauds wax dummy of Tom Baker as the 4th Doctor. And William Hartnell had already sadly passed away, and so they had another actor playing him. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, they've subsequently done in the Capaldi era when they brought the 1st Doctor back. They got the actor that played Filch from the Harry Potter films to play him, which he plays him great. I love, I believe his name's David Bradley. I love him playing the 1st Doctor. It's such a treat because, in a twisted way, the actors and the actors playing these doctors have almost become Time Lords themselves, where one doctor is played by different actors. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. Oh, no, that first season, it's... Right. Yeah, but I guess this has kind of been a very long-winded way of the question about half-hour to an hour episodes of shows. I don't know. For me, half-hour episodes have kind of become a new interest of mine, only because in a twisted way, it's almost like for example, there was a show I started watching right before COVID hit that I fell in love with, and I would argue it might be one of my favorite TV shows ever, and it's Mozart in the Jungle on Amazon Prime. Mm-hmm. And it's got one of my favorite actors in it, Gael Garcia Bernal, and each episode is roughly a half hour, but you get so much with the quirky characters, but also the fact that these are all a bunch of quirky people trying to make an orchestra, and I'm forgetting the exact terminology, if it's like the New York Symphony Orchestra. But it's basically a bunch of people trying to get this very highbrow orchestra to be what it's known to be. Each episode was 10 episodes per season, and the seasons go by fast. Like, I'll put it this way. When I realized I was on the final episode, I genuinely felt sad because it wasn't supposed to be the final episode. You know what? It is because it became so, and it just makes the show that much more bittersweet in the end. But you still get a half hour each time of great music, great acting, a lot of humor, and a lot of heart. And those are all things that, at least now, I'm kind of looking for in shows. I just never see it in any show that comes out. I mean, is there a show out now that, you're clamoring for, or are you like me where it's like, yeah, television's dead?
I can't fucking handle anything serious anymore. Like, I need something dumb. And I'm so sad that something like Trailer Park Boys ended when it did, and it did end on a high note, as dumb as it was. Mm-hmm. Because it was just one of those things where you could binge watch and not feel bad about it. Because not only are you looking at the visualizations of people that are very well your neighbors, right, but not to mention, a stereotype of Canada, who I have seen. There does exist Canadian trailer trash out there. But it was interesting in the way that they came up with it was like fucking adult Ed, Edd n Eddy is what it was. Right. And that's a show that I always loved as a kid, because at the end of the day, the non-continuous sort of like storylines, mm-hmm, it's one of those you can watch it at any time and get, assuming that you start from the beginning of the season. But each season is different because it follows just a completely different 10-episode ruse. Okay.
Right.
Now,
right.
I can binge watch an entirety of it because they were genius in how they marketed it, where each season is always 10 episodes and is always half hour. Okay. So it's not a huge investment, and you can essentially stop and play it anytime you want. What I don't like, aside from TikTok artists, Twitter hoes, and the overabundance of people with the chip on their shoulder on social media thinking that they're hot shit, is a show that overstays its welcome in pandering a message of importance. And I have seen many a show do that. Maybe that's why I like dark comedy, and it's why I write lowbrow satire, because I don't know. I can't take seriously a show that takes itself too seriously to the point where, okay, dude, you're just you're bullshitting for the camera right now.
Right.
Okay? And
Yep.
like, I gotta tell you, man, that's why I didn't fucking watch Breaking Bad because of it. I mean, of course, I watched Breaking Bad when I grew up and understood it. But I didn't watch. Oh God, what didn't I watch? Oh, Mr. Robot is the perfect example. 1 and 2 are great. Everything past that, they started to get a little bit too. Hey, let's involve ourselves needlessly in politics and social issues and completely deviate from the main course of what made this show great. And what made the show great is underground hacking, which if you talk to any fucking 4chan hacker, they can give a shit less about social issues.
That's true.
And see, but what made the show interesting is how it lampooned that to a serious note, where it's like, okay, fuck society, but here's why. Okay, this is why society is the way it is. Like, it does go for, albeit, a very, very Joker-esque mantra, and this was before Joker was even a conceivable thought.
Kind of going back to Mozart in the Jungle, as the show progressed, I realized the genius behind it is the fact that you have people that are working on this show who are related to, I would say, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and arguably one of the 5 reasons why there is still any art left in filmmaking, and that's because, and it's several family members. So I'm not going to go through the details of specifically who, but people who are related to Francis Ford Coppola helped develop this show, and also even star in it. And it almost gives it this veneer of, it almost harkens back to, and I remember you and I had a conversation about this back, I want to say it was the night that we went and saw Kenny and Pete for Touchdowns and Tangents, where I was telling you about American Zoetrope and all of the different filmmakers that worked through American Zoetrope, like Francis Ford Coppola and Brian De Palma and Martin Scorsese and George Lucas. And, they elevated filmmaking in a way that felt far more grounded, but more of a spectacle. And I think that is something that I can proudly say has thankfully passed down genetically when it comes to something like Mozart in the Jungle, because you're getting something that's of a very good quality, but, it's not trying to be a show that's meticulous like Game of Thrones or The Newsroom or Succession or, whatever. It's trying to be an uplifting show about, these very dynamic personalities that are all radically different from one another, and yet all of them have the same passion for music. As Gael Garcia Bernal's character calls it, it's the blood. It's having that essence in you to make music and have it be something that is beautiful. And mind you, he's saying this to people that are basically recreating the music by countless long past musicians, artists, whatever you want to whatever names you want to give them, be it Beethoven, Mozart, anybody. And yet the idea of having all this passion go into classical music hundreds of years after this music's been originally written, it's fascinating, and it's also lighthearted in a way because there is so much humor, and you never feel like you're getting bogged down in something horrific or serious outside of like couples breaking up, and there's a few moments like that, but typically they're pretty fleeting. And I just feel like that's something that I wish we had more of in our entertainment. That's why something like Joker or The Irishman were both so great, because they tapped into that late 70s film auteurism, I guess is the best way to describe it, that totally reinvented the art of filmmaking. They go to Mexico, they go to Japan, they go to Europe at one point, I think. I mean, it's enlightening. I'll put it that way. That show in particular, it's enlightening because you're looking through the world through Gael Garcia Bernal's character's eyes, and Bernal's an actor who loves to make his characters his own in all of the movies he's been in. But with Bernal's characters, you can't say it's borderline political, because at the end of the day, he always finds a great way to incorporate his character being very egalitarian. And that's something that I admire when it's somebody who understands why they want to be egalitarian. And, he incorporates it into this specific character of Rodrigo de Souza is his character's name. And the manic love of music, the love of Mozart, the love of Beethoven. He brings this attitude to the character that was so refreshing, but also just genuine in a way that obviously we just don't get with performances, especially with, mediocre performances. This is not mediocre in the slightest. Yeah, I would highly recommend it. The cast is great.
Well, I'll definitely give it a shot. Yeah, I'll see if I can find solace in developing a personality based off of my favorite shows, or I can just grow up. But with that, I think we'll end it off here. So why don't you tell the good people where we can find you?
It's a pretty mellow night. I love it.
Yeah,
Well, when I'm not reading Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72 and realizing that people were voting for a man named Ed Muskie, you can find me on Instagram at Mancini Ryan. On there, you'll see me sharing all forthcoming information about local campaigns in my area, as well as any local protests that I may be aware of, even in the midst of triple-digit heat. You can find me at Mancini Ryan. As for Twitter, you'll see me schooling political journalists who never studied politics at Mancini RA. Yeah, that's a thing. Newspapers like to hire people that don't know a damn thing about politics, and yet they get to be political reporters. It makes me wonder why political science is still a subject in school. But anyway, Sebastian, where can the good people peruse your shenanigans?
Let's see. The laundry list is there. It's just it's really hard to just come up with it. I'm not even under the influence. It goes into my social media handles because I re-downloaded Twitter for the sake of me, promoting the new stuff that I'm doing. I can't even do that, man. It's so intolerable. Instagram has gotten a lot worse even. And again, only thing I would use it for, I'm leaving that burp in.
I'm leaving it in too.
Yeah. Only thing I would use it for is to just, promote my new stuff. And it's like, I'm realizing the Nietzschean, what does it matter mentality of it all, where it's like, I hope, like, am I posting it just so people can see it? Or am I posting it because I genuinely want people to see it? I don't like the numbers game we all live in nowadays. So, if you're inclined, if you'd like to see it, you can follow me at Dr. Sebi on Instagram and on Twitter as well, at Dr._Sebi. If you like daily narrations, you could find me under the handle of Seabass. If you like that in audio format, just strictly as an audio archive, you can follow Shugsy's Storytime. I also post music as well from time to time. You could find me under the handle of Shugsy, just Shugsy, Sehugzy. I've just finished up my second film, Bloomer. My first one was Doomer. You can also find those as well on YouTube. Funny enough, Amazon Video did actually approve the second one, Bloomer, but it still is reviewing the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Figure that out. I submitted it about a week ago, and the second film I submitted like a day ago, and it's already up online. Anyway, go check that out. I'm Sebastian Shug. With me, as always, is Ryan Mancini. Before we get too into this, we'll see you next
time. Wear a mask. Go vote. Support the Postal Service. If you can, help out the American Postal Workers Union. And for goodness sake, people, vote.
Thank you for listening to Mars on Life. You can find us over on Instagram and on Twitter at Mars on Life Show. In terms of listening to the show, you can find us wherever podcasts are found. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and Radio Public. Also, don't forget to head on over to the official Mars on Life YouTube channel. That way you can find our full catalog of episodes. Our artwork is done by Zachary Erberich, and our intro music is Space Explorers by Kevin MacLeod. I've been Ryan Mancini. My co-host, as always, is Sebastian Shug. And just remember, if you keep on going, you'll make it to Mars.